Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sasha Farbach. Alice Weidel, the co-leader of the German far-right AfD party, triggered concern with her recent interview. She backed leaving Schengen and abandoning the euro if her party would take national power in Germany. Poland's foreign minister, Radosław Sikorski, warns this would carry serious economic consequences for Poland. Comments come just as the AfD approaches potentially historic election in Saxony-Anhalt in early September. Joining us now is Sudha David-Wilp, Vice President and Senior Fellow at the German Marshall Fund. Good to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Sasha.
So, there's actually a series of 2 interviews in the last few days in German media, watched by millions. We saw Alice Weidel say some pretty inflammatory stuff, looking at leaving the euro, calling it soft. Let's start with that. What kind of reaction do you think she was going for? Are the facts here supporting her or against her? What kind of weight does it carry when someone like this says it on public television?
Well, it's certainly antithetical to Germany's success over the last couple of decades. The euro has been only a positive effect for Germany because it's been able to build its export machine over the last couple of decades. But the economy is sputtering right now. And I think although this party, the AfD party, started out as an anti-euro party, it has changed to be mostly concentrated on being anti-immigrant migration. But of course, the euro skepticism is still very alive and well, as you can see from the interview that she gave this past Sunday on German television. And of course, that would be very bad for Germany, but also very bad for the EU if Germany, usually considered an anchor of stability for Europe, is facing such vulnerabilities and rhetoric at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And also this rhetoric includes not just the euro, you mentioned also migration. Another thing that she said in that interview was she was in favor of Germany leaving the Schengen zone, so this free trade and free movement zone. So again, the question here is how damaging would that be, not just to Germany, but also its neighbors?
Well, let's take a pause, Sasha, first of all, because right now we're looking at state elections in Germany. And the one that's coming up first is the one in Saxony-Anhalt. And yes, of course, the AfD is poised to perhaps have an absolute majority, but that is not going to have an immediate effect on the federal level. But this is a slow process of chipping away at the establishment parties in Germany because all the political fragmentation. And we're not looking, although the AfD is #1 in the polls on a federal level, no other mainstream party is willing to form a coalition. So having a majority government or leading in Berlin is still not on the short-term horizon at the moment. But of course, if a party would come into power like this in Berlin, it would go to the heart of what's strong and what makes Europe what it is today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. You're talking about the regional elections. There have been several of them this year. This is one of the final ones. We'll have it on the 6th of September. But polling there, just also for our viewers, I think it's AfD around 41%. Way ahead of, I think, the CDU, the Conservatives, around 20%. Even combined, it's going to be difficult to stand up against that. But just explain to us briefly, it's a federal system. What could the AfD potentially do in that state? What gives them sort of power? What are their limitations? We said they're not on a national level, but how kind of influential could they be, and what does it mean on such a state level?
Yeah, so if the AfD were able to have a minister-president in the Bundesrat, on the federal level, it can't block alone. It wouldn't be able to block federal legislation alone. It would be 1 vote among 16. I think it's like 4 votes that Saxony-Anhalt has, but it can certainly obstruct and delay, and it will have access to sensitive information involving internal security and migration and education. And certainly on the local level, the AfD could, of course, do a lot more because it will have agency when it comes to determining education and law and order, and also obviously influencing an investment climate. And it would have blocking ability, of course, on a local level.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I'm looking at one of those things we've heard of over these last months and years. Most major parties have said they'll build a so-called political firewall around the AfD, that no one wants to govern with them on any sort of level. I'm just curious what you think of that if they do come out on top, because I think we have one of the state premiers next door in Saxony, a CDU premier there, who said, well, the time of this firewall may be over. So when we hear stuff like that, I mean, what happens next, I think, on the 7th of September?
Sure. Well, this party has not entered a trajectory of moderation yet, as perhaps other right-wing parties in Europe have done. Even Le Pen and Meloni probably think the AfD is too radical for its for their tastes. But the firewall, people interpret it in the sense that it could have also caused the AfD to be so popular. But for Merz, the firewall has been sort of his signature policy for the CDU. And although there is overlap with the CDU-CSU, the center-right conservatives in Germany, some of the stances of the AfD just are completely incompatible with the CDU when it comes to, for example, this idea of Westbindung, being anchored in the West, or the idea of memory culture, and also obviously that the EU is a pillar of German foreign and security policy. So I think it's very hard to overcome these ideological differences. Perhaps on a local level, it's necessary. This is a democracy, and if the AfD gets voted, it's really on the establishment parties to show German voters why, although slow, their parties are use legitimate instruments and are better for Germany in the long term. So yes, let's see what happens this fall, but it will have ramifications for Berlin down the line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I want to come back to that because, I mean, during that interview she said she wants to remove Germany from Schengen. We know we're not there yet. There's still many, many things on that road if it does happen. But nevertheless, it's already made Poland's foreign minister push back publicly, saying that this would have terrible consequences, economic consequences for Poland. I mean, it's just interesting also because in that interview, she said very much how she wants the free market to reign, but putting up border checks. So how damaging would this be for a country like Poland and Germany? I mean, these are two big trade partners.
I mean, it would be devastating for Poland and Germany. It would be Germany borders many countries, and there's a lot of spillover effects when it comes to trade. And if Schengen was disrupted, you see the immediate effects right away. Let's just look at Brexit as an example of what happened when a country left the EU. Many economists say that the British have lost out on growth opportunities now and into the future. So Germany, being the largest market in Europe, would have immediate ripple effects if anything like that were to happen. But again, the mainstream parties, I don't think that there's any reason to put these or to go along with the AfD on any of these policies. And although Alice Weidel is an economist by training, I do think this is also an attempt, of course, to prey on German anxiety when it comes to its economic model, because the German economic model is due for a reboot. And Chancellor Merz has not been effective when it comes to implementing real reform.
Mm-hmm. But on the economic front, you mentioned that Alice Weidel herself, someone who knows these things, but also in the interview, I watched this in German, and she also said that she called the euro a soft currency, that the inflation is really rising, that the German economy is weak. So what do you think about that? Do her claims have any facts that the euro has been damaging for Germany?
I do think that, as I said before at the beginning, I think Germany has been a country that's benefited extraordinarily by the euro. It made the German currency. It made German exports. The German economic muscle has only benefited by the euro over the past couple of years. It's allowed trading supply chains to be easier all across Europe. It's hard to look back, and say that maybe that the Germany shouldn't have joined the euro. But I think most mainstream economists would say it's only been a benefit. Now it's really a question about just revitalizing German industry and not just relying on the old forms of German industrial might. because things are changing. There's structural change when it comes to energy costs, when it comes to labor markets, and it's about also making sure that new innovation and startups are also bolstered within the German economy.
Mm-hmm. So who do you think, I mean, this message was geared towards? If we're looking at her comments, also, Hrupala also made quite strong comments, but who was her audience here? Was it aimed at this regional election in Saxony-Anhalt?
Yes, I think although that the AfD is, doing well in the polls nationwide, you can't really say that this is a party that's only has its foothold in the East. But of course, there are voters in the former East Germany who are skeptical about Brussels, who are skeptical about support for Ukraine. And I think this is also a way to, just sort of tell German voters that the AfD could bring back the good old times. But really, the good old times, it's a brave new world, and German mainstream parties, but also parties all over Europe, liberal democracies, need to figure out how to deal with these new challenges within Europe and within the immediate neighborhood, and also dealing with a new global order with China and the United States and Russia. And unity is very important on that front.
Right, so it's going to be a regional election in Germany, but with quite big consequences on the 6th of September. Look, thanks for that. Really appreciate your insights there. Sudha David-Wilp there from the German Marshall Fund. Thank you so much. And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more. Goodbye.